Hello everyone, I'm 𝗵𝗶𝗃𝗄𝗏 and I'm thrilled to invite you to the next episode of Talent Talks. This time I'm joined by a fantastic guest, the brilliant business leader and executive coach from Sydney, Katie Hasson. Join Katie and me as we dive into a conversation you won't want to miss. Hello, dear Katie Hasson from Australia. Welcome to Talent Talks, and thank you so much for accepting my invitation. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Thank you so much. Thanks for being here and joining me here. Shall we start the questions?
Let's go for it.
Yeah, that's great. Would you please tell the audience about yourself?
My name is Katie Hasson, and if you can't tell by my accent, I am from Sydney, Australia, and I have spent the past 20 years in banking, and I also spent 12 years in Singapore. And a bit about myself, I suppose 8 years ago, I got really curious and obsessed with coaching. And what was on my mind was, why do some leaders thrive and others struggle? And why is coaching just for the C-suite and not for what I would say the messy middle and everyone? And it was there that I was working at Standard Chartered Bank. And we tossed up the idea about what if coaching wasn't just for the 1%. And I created a movement called Ignite. We started with a small experiment of 9 coaches. And by the end, I had 250 coaches in 35 countries. And we built a world-class internal executive coaching team. And so now, as you can see by my banner, I have started my own organization called Ignite Coaching Culture. And I work with organizations from 100 people to up to 100,000 people. And we work on everything coaching related. So coaching strategy, one-on-one executive coaching to full-blown coaching builds. So that's just
Wow,
a little
lucky
bit
you.
about me.
Well, lucky you. Katie, you distinguish between having internal coaches and having a coaching culture. What's the difference and why does it matter?
Yeah. So look, I mean, I think the thing is having a coaching culture is all about it shouldn't just be a standalone program. Something that just, it should be something that is, it's just basically how we operate. So in my mind, I believe all of us within an organization should have just a base level capability of coaching, which I define as leadership, listening, asking questions, creating space, curiosity. I think all of us as people leaders, we need to incorporate coaching into our one-on-ones, our meetings. We need it to problem solve. And I think when coaching cultures and why it's so important, when it's done right, coaching happens in real moments that matter, which is day to day to day. And to your question, like, why should organizations care? The reality is organizations spend millions of dollars every year on once-off generic coaching programs. People go into a 2-day program, they go back to their office overwhelmed with emails, and there's no reflection, there's no coaching, and it's almost like a few weeks later that the coaching never exists. And so that's what excites me most about having a coaching culture. For me, it's about unlocking what I call the messy middle. So it's the mid-level organizations who carry the most weight within the organization, do the most, but they actually get the least support, least coaching, least training. And so when organizations develop a coaching culture, they're actually developing layers that can really drive culture and performance on a daily basis.
Wow, and another problem
Mm.
which comes up to my mind. Most managers say they don't have time for coaching. What are the micro moments where coaching actually happens in real work?
Yeah, look, I mean, I hear this all the time. And what I would say to all people, leaders out there, is that you do have the hardest job in the world. You are managing a team of individuals, different capabilities, skills, and engagement. And the real true key to amazing people leadership is meeting people where they're at. And in my mind, being a manager as coach, it's not a superpower and it's not something that has to be time consuming. So I think, how do we bring it in practice? Back to your question, it's about, first of all, just noticing. So, for example, if you have a team member who's normally highly engaged and you see over a period of time or even within a day, their shoulders are shrugged, they're late, they're using certain terminology, it's about pulling them aside and bringing that elephant in the room and say, look, I've noticed you haven't been acting yourself. Is there anything I can do to help? I think the second thing, how we can bring it into daily life, is about problem solving. So I think the old way was for leaders to have all the answers, all the solutions, and it was about instructing. This is what you have to do. But now the coaching way is when someone comes to you with a question, it's about pausing and having a 5-minute conversation and being a bit curious, asking them, what have they tried? What else could they explore? Who else do you think they need to speak to? Lastly, I think it's also about being curious. So, like, I think that we both, for example, speak English, but different words mean different things to different people. So often I see people say, "Oh, I had a really tough meeting with a stakeholder." If you really want to be a good leader as a coach, you need to pause there and say, what does tough mean to you? Tough could mean confrontational. Tough could mean unprepared. Tough could mean there was a bad outcome. And so holding some more space to find out and be curious around what words mean and really using your one-on-ones, not just to do that kind of laundry list of status updates, but really about finding out, what's energizing? Where are you stuck? What are the roadblocks? And I think the key is your job is not to have all the answers. Your job is really to listen, to understand, not fix and tell. And your job is really to unlock the existing capability with your own people. And I think, to be honest, hopefully people who listen to this, who are leaders, they can actually feel relieved that they don't have to be the expert on everything.
Wow, so inspiring. Thank you so much. Next question could be, what's the difference between certifying someone as a coach and actually developing them into a great one?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think the mistakes that most organizations make is, as I said, they spend so much time and money upskilling coaches. They send people to a 2-day program, they hand them the certificate, and they expect magic to happen within the organization. However, they don't actually build the infrastructure for managers and coaches to really hone their craft. So they really haven't answered the question on how are we building this sustainably? And so for us, and for what I do at Ignite Coaching Culture, is we really want to build internal teams and be really intentional and deliberate. And we're there to build coaches and formal products. So, for example, at Standard Chartered, we had a 4-month program. It had an initial kickoff, midpoint, and endpoint. And there it was really, really where people could go in. And I suppose what really made it work is the infrastructure around rewarding the coaches. So for us, we built in monthly upskilling, supervision, and we treated coaching like the professional development it is. So I think it is, if people within organizations really want to build coaching capability, it's about building the systems, the formal certification and infrastructure. It's not just about once-off training.
Wow. How do you prove coaching actually works? What should organizations measure?
Yeah. Look, we always talk about the ROI of coaching, and I think we measured it a few ways. So for us, for every single person going through in a coaching engagement, we would see where are they at first, prior to going into coaching, in terms of a lot of development goals. Then we actually do the same survey post 4 months and see where they are. And it's interesting, every time that I've run this with clients, there is an average of 20% uplift in these development areas within a client. And it's interesting, sometimes we go a step further and we also survey the people leaders of those coached. And what we are seeing is managers are noticing a difference. And there's almost up to 15% improvement on how they showed up, how they made decisions, and how they showed impact. Another way that I encourage all organizations to track is track the promotions, retention, internal mobility, performance rating, bonuses. And what we found at Standard Chartered, time and time again, if we compared the benchmarks of those who went through coaching and those who didn't, time and time again, those who coaching way outperformed the other. And the last ROI I would talk about is money, because I know
Mhm.
everyone compares the bottom line. And what I would say is we saved the organization millions of dollars. And how did we calculate that? As I said, we had an internal program which was 4 months. We compared the cost of what we charged that internally to what we charged external providers. And that's how we really got the ROI financial dollars. And so, as I said, there are many, many ways to perform this from an ROI perspective. And it's just about picking and choosing what works for your organization.
And it's too hard, to satisfy the leaders. Always is too hard. What's the biggest mindset shift leaders need to make for coaching to stick?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think historically coaching was seen as you have a problem. And I think that, what we need to say, it's not remedial anymore. You don't get a coach because you're underperforming. The new mindset is Olympians have coaches, CEOs have coaches. So coaching should be now really as a development, a high performing status, and it really should be available for everyone. I think the kind of next shift is from I need to know all the answers to I can unlock answers within. And I think this is really hard for senior leaders because people used to get promoted because they had the answers. And so I think we're moving from an organization where to win, there's one brilliant person at top. But now we are at the new mindset about unlocking the answers and figuring out together, which I think is terrifying for some, but liberating, especially with this younger generation coming out on top. And I think lastly, too many times when I do my consulting is I think that culture is HR's job. And the reality is culture is all of our job. And what I would say is Ignite wouldn't have existed. Ignite was started actually in the business, and HR wasn't actually supportive initially. And so never underestimate the solutions you can find within the organization. The majority of our coaches were actually from the business, operational risk, technology, and finances. So never underestimate your employees and never underestimate giving them the opportunity to contribute in ways that they never had imagined. And that's what can actually shift your culture.
Wow, that's great. I hope everyone does in the organizations, especially the leaders. Next question could be, the internal coaches know the organization intimately. That's powerful. But what are the pitfalls? How do you maintain trust and confidentiality?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think this is a big and a valid concern. And I think that if you train coaches appropriately, all of that diminishes. So, for example, the most important thing with coaching is, first of all, when they meet with their internal clients, is to have that contracting conversation. So, what is confidential and what's not confidential? And I think the rule of thumb is every single thing is confidential, except the only exceptions are if there's real concerns about health or any legal constraints there. I think the second thing is really making sure people understand the relationship of the coach. You're a coach of equals. You're not their manager, you're not their friend, you're simply there to hold space for them to unlock their potential. So it's really important that you're not necessarily coaching your direct reports. You're not coaching anyone in your your department line or where there is a conflict. And what I would say is that the last 2 years of Standard Chartered, we actually went on a coaching platform, which was baselined against external coaching platform. And what we saw is time and time after again, our internal coaches outperformed external coaches because they knew they had the deep understanding organizational context. They could swoop in kind of being a mentor, being a coach. They've walked the hallways. And so what I would encourage everyone to say is there are some risks involved, but when done right, internal coaching can be incredibly sustainable, affordable, and powerful.
Thank you so much. And Katie, you talk about creating coaching products that people actually use. What makes a coaching program stick versus fade away after the initial excitement?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think sometimes people overcomplicate things. There's too many forms, there's too many processes, things are not clear. And I think for us, it's about building a signature program that everyone gets behind. For us, it was about a 4-month program, clear milestones in kickoff, midpoint, endpoint, 6 sessions. All of our cohorts were sponsored by people within the business. People had to apply. There was not this wasn't a program just people that gave willy-nilly to top talent. And this ensured that all participants who got into the program, they actually wanted to be coached. So many times we see people just handpicked into development programs that they actually don't want to be in. So I think definitely how you make it stick is make people apply and make people opt in. Another way of making things stick, which was a huge part of my role, is the continued reward and recognition of coaches who were giving over and beyond their day to day. So we had like annual Ignite coaching awards, development, supervision, and really sharing the testimonials. So really Ignite just really became an ecosystem. And what I would say was a real stat that we were really proud of is actually 1 in 10 clients who were coached then went on later to become a coach themselves. So the program didn't just sustain, it actually organically grew itself.
Even I'm proud of something
Mhm.
that you are doing. That's great. Katie, Ignite was built before remote work became the norm. How does internal coaching work in a hybrid or fully distributed organization?
Well, let me say that it absolutely can. I mean, for us, at the end, we had 250 coaches over 30 countries. So we didn't have the option for face to face. Everything was virtual. And actually, there is so much research backing up that coaching online and even with cameras off, can be just as effective, if not more effective. And so I think for people, the ways you can make it work is be intentional about human connection. So obviously when teams are face to face, you have those water cooler conversations, you have coffees, but just because you're online doesn't mean you can miss those moments, but you have to design them in more intentionally. So what I would say to everyone is just don't jump into the meetings and the agendas, but really spending a few moments connecting as humans before that. I think the other thing is building connection, human connection, and community for for your coaches or for your teams, and that's about ensuring there are structured meetings in place, building rituals, and I think lastly, I think too often within organizations is we think that everything has to be structured. Everything has to be a meeting, whether it's a 30-minute or a 60-minute. I think now with technology, especially with hybrid teams, we can use this to our advantage and we can think about voice notes. We can think about, recorded reflections, check-in via messaging, and we can do this without adding other meetings. And I think this can be incredibly powerful in between each session. So I think it's to build more connection, it's about being more deliberate and intentional and also allowing some flexibility.
Thank you so much. I do appreciate. Here, Katie, please answer the next question. Take us inside Standard Chartered's journey. How did Ignite evolve from a pilot program to an embedded culture?
Yeah, so as I said, I had this idea of making coaching sustainable and democratizing it to everyone in moments that matter to them. And I suppose for that, we knew we had to think differently than sending people on once-off external coaching programs. And so what we did is we developed internal coaches, and in exchange for training and developing them, they gave back by coaching other people. So we spent money upskilling coaches properly, and that really committed them to coaching other colleagues. What I would say is that the pilot spoke for itself. The ROI was not only on the clients, but it was the ROI on the coaches and the development that rang. And it was interesting. Once we had done the pilot, I sustained myself as a full-time internal executive coach manager. And it was interesting. The global head of HR actually went to our whole organization and asked who within the organization is an qualified ICF executive coach. And it was interesting, our team grew 50 people overnight. So what I would say to anyone within any organization, start small, but start now. And there's already existing capability within your organization that you could leverage off. And what I would say is then with a team of 60, we really built the foundations. We really built this 4-month program and we saw the ROI happening. And it was there that we made a decision to actually grow our coaching capability. And once again, what I saw as our success was that everything was opting in. And so we went out to the organization to say, who wants to become an executive coach? And we sponsored 120 coaches, new coaches. And what I would say is that coaching certifications are expensive. And so we only gave them 25% of that fee back. So people were willing to spend 75% of their own funding, their own time, because they saw the benefits on leading and becoming a coach and their own development. So it actually became something that was a subculture of like-minded spirits. It was not mandated. It was not top down. It was people choosing to invest in themselves and their organization. It was people who believed in their development and giving back and growing others. And what I would say is that it just had such a domino effect. People who were sponsoring our coaches and our clients, and it really just became an ecosystem.
Wow, so inspiring. Let's go to the future. Where is internal coaching heading? What will look different in 5 years?
Look, I mean, I think what's going on is I think the democratization of coaching is only going to accelerate. I think right now coaching is still skewed to C-suite and leaders, but I think the next wave is coaching is going to be for everyone. New hires, individual contributors, frontline workers in moments that matter to them. I think AI is going to play a really big part in this, but I still think that the human connection will be absolutely still irreplaceable. I also think that there are going to be roles in organizations where coaching isn't just the side of the desk, but I think there's going to be dedicated roles that really legitimize, attracts, and sustains the quality of internal coaching. I also think that coaching won't be something that you just go and do. I think coaching will be completely woven into the organizational language and just how we do team meetings, how we do strategy sessions. It's going to be from this command to control to also just engaging and everyone being curious and the collective intelligence of everyone. What I would want by, I suppose, 2030 is everyone getting access to a coach. Not because HR mandated it, but because that's just how we grow and lead. I think that I would love organizations to say that it's no longer a nice to have, but it's a must have. And it's really that kind of leadership capability that will unlock innovation, resilience, and performance. I think that's what we should be working towards.
Wow, that would be a great days and great future. Next question would be, what's the biggest mistake you see organizations make when trying to build a coaching culture?
Look, I think that the biggest mistake is appointing coaches instead of inviting them. So
Mhm.
they're appointing people, for example, in HR, and coaching requires passion and generosity. And I don't think you can just tap someone on the shoulder, send them mandatory onto a coaching program and just expect them to give back. So I'm a firm believer for coaching to work for coaches and clients, everything has to be opt-in. The second thing is I think, appointing clients also through top talent. Once again, coaching can only be successful if you put the skin in the game. So I always say we over-engineer things. Let's let people talk for themselves and let's let people opt in, put skin in the game, because only there will they show a real firm, hard commitment.
Wow, that's great. If someone listening wants to start tomorrow or maybe today, what's the first step?
Start small and start now. As I said,
Wow.
you probably have people already within your organization with the right skills to become coaching people right now. Set up your signature program and just pilot it. Pilot a program for 4 months, test success, and then and only then, once you prove success, start scaling. So start small, but start now.
And don't be hesitant. Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. The last question from my side would be, what surprised you most about this journey? What did you get wrong?
I think I think we got the ROI wrong. So I think for us, we were so obsessed with proving financial success and, cost savings. Um, but I think we missed the biggest picture. So not only did we save financial costs, which I knew we were going to do, leveraging off internal talent, but we didn't see the domino effect. We didn't see the impact that actually what this had on our coaches. We saw them grow, upskill, build leadership development, building better leaders. We obviously saw the clients glow in terms of unlocking their potential, but it was really that domino effect that was beyond just the financials. It was about shifting culture, which I think at the end of the day, you can't really put a dollar sign on it. So I think it's about the ripples beyond beyond the finances.
Yeah, I think that employers are not patient enough. They just think about ROI, making more money, and they can even still nowadays they consider the employees and the personnel as tools to
Absolutely.
achieve their goals and earn as much as they can, and the more the better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the problem that I always have this problem while visiting different employers in different industries. They just think about their goals, but not long-term goals. Just about 1 year, 2 years. What happens at the end of this year? Tell me about the ROI. Tell me about the benefit and something like that. But it is completely wrong. You are doing something cultural. When you are doing something cultural, it takes time. That's great. Katie, thank you so much for being here, joining me. I learned many things from you, and I'm sure that you will be a famous person in the near future, much more than now. You're a great mom, great leader, great manager, a greater coach. I learned many things. What's your last word?
Look, first of all, my last word is that is absolutely too kind. Look, my last word is, I absolutely fundamentally believe in coaching. And I think this can be so powerful and inspiring. So my last word would be, if anyone is thinking, who wants a coach, who wants to bring coaching within the organization, is that this is what I do. This is what I believe in, and for me, it's about how to bring this into as many organizations as possible.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for accepting my invitation.
My
I wish you a
pleasure.
great day, great week, great months, and great year. We'll be in touch, and I think that there will be a lot of cooperation between you and I.
Thank you
Have
so
a
much,
great day.
Mohammed. Thank you.
Thank you
Bye,
so much. I
everyone.
really appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.